Hi guys, and welcome back to Zero's Maverick hunting. You know, I love dollar stores. You can get pretty much anything in a dollar store. Well, anything that could be dollars, so I guess cheaply made, but sometimes you can find hidden gems at dollar stores. Anyways, I love dollar stores because you can get stuff, you know, like cheap knockoff toys, other stuff like that. However, there's one thing you rarely find in dollar stores, and that's video games. And sometimes you can get decent games like Avatar: The Last Airbender for GameCube. Or then there's those other times when you get a game that you think's gonna be good, or you don't think much of it, but you think you might get something good out of it. And that brings us to Pokemon Team Turbo. Now, at first glance, Pokemon Team Turbo looks like one of those minigame collections you get in, like, cereal boxes. The most memorable one to me is the Timon and Pumbaa collection, which I still have somewhere hidden in my house. But that was the most memorable of them. But we all know what these are like. They're just minigame compilations. However, Pokemon Team Turbo is a little different. It has a main game to it, with the minigames being an extra. It has a racing game in it. And Pokemon and racing, that sounds pretty good. I mean, we've got Mario Kart, we've got Superstar Saga Racing, I think that's what it's called. So, why can't Pokemon do it? Well, there's a good reason why Pokemon didn't do it, and we're gonna find out.
To understand my frustration with this game, we'll need to look at it from the start. First off, this game wasn't created by Game Freak or published by Nintendo. It was created by a company named ValueSoft, who is a division of THQ, the company responsible for games such as Saints Row and Red Faction. Huh, not bad. Based on what my research says, the game was published by Nintendo, but I highly doubt that, since Nintendo rarely publishes games that aren't for Nintendo consoles. And since Pokemon USA's logo is at the start with the other logos, I'm going to speculate that they are the real publishers. Like I stated at the start of this review, this game is both a racing game and a minigame collection. So to start, I'm going to talk about the racing portion. There are 6 different racetracks to choose from, each with different goals. First is the Street Match, which also explains the controls for the game, in which you use your mouse to steer your Pokemon, and that's it. That's the controls. Simple, yes, but as we'll see here in a moment, it's not very effective.
Oh, rim shot!
Get it? Not very effective? Yeah, shut up. The goal of the first track is to, of course, get to the end like all the tracks. However, you can also collect letters that spell the name of the Pokemon you're using to race with to get an extra boost of speed. The second track, titled Dirt Track Insanity, is a dirt track that contains domino pieces that have the Pokemon's pictures on it. If you collect one of your racers, you get a speed boost, but if you collect one of any other racers, you'll spin out. The third track is known as the Grand Prix course. It has the same goals as the first track, but with a slightly more difficult track. Track 4, Aqua Mania, is a water track, which means turning is harder and it has green shapes that provide boost and red ones that slow you down. Track 5, Snow Insanity, is a downhill track in which you can collect numbers in order for boost. However, if you miss one number, you won't receive any more boost for the rest of the race. The final track is just all the previous tracks together, but now you can use water balloons you've acquired from other minigames on your opponents in this marathon. Now on to the minigames. First there's Charizard's Crossword Challenge, which is exactly what it sounds like, a crossword puzzle game. Next is Bulbasaur's Domino Dash, which is dominoes with Pokemon pictures on them instead of dots. Third minigame is Mudkips Word Finder, which is basically just word search but with a lot more of what you like. Mudkips. The next game is Skitty's Blockout, which is a puzzle game similar to Connect 4 or Puyo Puyo, except instead of connecting 4 pieces together, you only need to connect 3. But they make up for this for having a time limit and you have to make certain combinations. It's probably the game I spent the most time with, until it gave me a headache and I had to stop. The last game is Squirrel's Door Dilemma, where the goal is to guess which Pokemon are behind which doors. To sum up the entirety of this game, it's boring. The racing game's controls are awful. Using the mouse to steer in a racing game is a bad idea, simply because it's slippery and it gets tiring really easy. The game's challenge is, well, there is none. Only once in the game did I actually feel any level of challenge, and that was in the 4th track of the racing game. Simply put, this game is way too easy. Yeah, I know, it's meant for little kids, but even they would think this game is easy. I had beaten this entire game in about 15 minutes, and did I feel accomplished? No. I was bored out of my mind, though I'm not sure what I expected judging from what the game had to offer. The music in this game is just a loop of the same thing over and over again. For reasons of sanity, I've replaced the in-game music with actual Pokemon music for the sole reason that the actual in-game music is terrible. But, here, listen for yourself. While we're on the topic of sound, the sound effects aren't much better. It's mostly just made up of clicks and magical sounds. Nothing really to talk about, and just as bland as the music. Speaking of blandness, let's talk about the graphics. The graphics aren't bad per se. They're just what you would expect from a minigame collection, unless of course you played a good minigame collection like Timon and Pumbaa, also for the PC, which by comparison Pokemon Team Turbo looks bland. I think the biggest issue is the lack of animation. There's little to no animation at all in this game, outside of the opening logos and credits. Comparing it again to Timon and Pumbaa, which has a ton of animations to make the game more entertaining, and that the game came out several years before Pokemon Team Turbo. And in all honesty, it's not very good to look at. While the game does have a ton of bright colors, it's just flat, plain images and some pseudo 3D images. Hell, I can make better looking graphics in PowerPoint. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Now after all that of what I said, should you try Pokemon Team Turbo? No. You shouldn't try the game. I think I've well established this in this review already, that this game isn't worth the $2 that you could spend on it. I spent $2 on this game. The same price I paid for Avatar: The Last Airbender. And this is decent. This is not so decent. So I can't recommend this game. I can only recommend you spending the $2 if you wish to get this game just to laugh at your friends with, or if you're a Pokemon collector. But since this game isn't even made by Game Freak, it's not even worth your time even if you are a collector. Well, that's all for this episode. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next... What's my show again?
Rejected.